Good morning and welcome to Ask the Expert, an award-winning daily live show from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. to help small businesses across the UK. If you've got any questions throughout this show, please ask them in the comments on the live feed and we'll get those answered for you. If you need any more advice, then please join the official QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. There's accountants and business experts on there on hand 24/7, sharing their expertise and experience to help you develop your business. During the live session, we'll also be running a poll, so please do engage with it, and at the end, we'll reveal the results. My name is Johann Goree, and I'm the Managing Director of OnPoint Accounting Group. OnPoint Accounting Group is a group of accounting firms and brands, each with their own niche and with a client-first approach to their customer service. So, this has been an eventful week for lots of small businesses, especially in England. There's been some great news in the fact that the businesses have started to reopen, especially in the hospitality area. We've seen lots of media coverage of people enjoying beer gardens and stuff like that. So I wanted to talk this week about getting ready to reopen if you've not reopened already. So I know there's lots of pubs and hospitality venues in England that haven't reopened yet because they've not got the outdoor space they need to be able to justify reopening. And Scotland is due to reopen on the 26th of April. So I want to look at some of that. I also want to go through what we've learned over the last few months and the last year, and just give some advice and ideas about how we can continue from those successes where we've seen them. So I think the main thing we've all learned is that we need to be dynamic in business. The businesses that have really succeeded are those that have pivoted. That's become the key word of the year, I think. Businesses that have had to change how they work, the services they offer, the ones that have done that and have had some really open-minded approaches towards their customers and how they operate, have done really well in lockdown. And we see that in a lot of our client bases. We've seen lots of clients that have done exceptionally well because they've had the open-mindedness to go find a new way of delivering their services, whether that's through online shopping, whether that's through deliveries. So we've seen restaurants that never did takeaways and deliveries. They've taken to deliveries and takeaways really quickly. We've seen small shops that have never had an online presence now have online stores. We've seen people that used to go out and do whiskey tastings in town halls and pubs and stuff like that. They're now doing whiskey tastings online, which means they're getting bookings from across the world, which is really exciting. And we've seen, just walking down the high street now, there's cafes and pubs that have changed their entire menu. So I was walking down the street in Leith in Edinburgh the other day, and there's a whole row of cafes, etc., that always used to just do coffee, cake, and that's about it. But now, because people can't sit in and enjoy their coffee and cake, they've taken to delivering the coffee and cake in takeaway containers, but they're now also selling things like slices of pizza, easy to eat on the go kind of food, not the stuff that you used to serve where you had to sit down to eat it and enjoy it. So there's been loads and loads of adaptability and pivoting, which I think is really important. But I think it's going to be important that things like online shops and deliveries aren't forgotten about. Just because you're reopening and going back to some form of normality in the next few days or weeks, don't forget about those services that have allowed you to survive the last year. I've said this a few times on QuickBooks Ask the Expert. Those services shouldn't just be right, that's it, we're moving back to normality, we'll drop those. They should now complement your original offering, and you should see an increased turnover because you've now got your normal trade plus that new trade that you developed online. Yes, there might be a bit of a drop in the fact that people that used to buy online will now come in store for you, but ultimately, there will still be a gain to be had there. So it's really important we don't forget that. The other part that we have really learned, I think, over the last year is the importance of coming up with new ideas. I think when you look at a lot of businesses, they kind of came up with their idea at the start, and we don't see huge amounts of innovation throughout the rest of their lifetime as a business because they've got their idea. And innovation seems to only come when there's trouble and they're struggling to trade. So I think it's really important that you and your team sit down regularly to come up with new ideas and new services, and new products and new offerings to help improve and diversify your portfolio. So I suppose a lot of it comes back to not putting all your eggs in one basket. So if you never do online shopping, you never do deliveries, you just sell out your shop, that's fine. But it means if your shop's closed, all your business dries up overnight. Whereas if you have, say if you're a greengrocer, if you have an online store, placing deliveries, you have a weekly subscription for vegetable boxes, or fortnightly or monthly, then you have a few different avenues of income coming in that will really help your business to survive different problems. Because outside of this crisis, if your greengrocer's ceiling collapses overnight and the shop can't be opened, you might still be able to operate your subscriptions and your online orders, but not have customers coming into the shop. So I think it's just really important that we remember to diversify our product offering and not to put all our eggs into one basket. And I think the overall message, and Google and Barclays and a lot of other big names have been pushing this, is to support your small businesses. Support those businesses that couldn't trade over the last year. They've seen a huge drop in earnings. They want to employ people again. They want to thrive again. So it's really important that we all support small businesses. I've seen some great things to encourage this. I've seen Tesco's are running a big newspaper campaign with a big pint glass saying, go and buy a pint at your local pub. They've had a hard year. I think that's a really, really good approach from Tesco. I have seen Google encouraging us all to use Google to find local small businesses to provide our material, whatever we're looking for in the high street. I've seen businesses that are closing for the day on the day that their non-essential shops are reopening, whether that's in England, Scotland, wherever that is. They're closing for the day and encouraging their staff to take the day off and go and spend money in small businesses. I just think that's a really nice token. A lot of us have turned to small businesses, such as your local butcher, your local greengrocer, your local fishmonger, when the supermarkets couldn't source those products at the start of the first lockdown. When their shelves started to go bare, the small businesses were able to get hold of the stock, and we all turned to them for that. I think it would be a real shame if we then move away from those and go back to our default position where we were a year ago. Because I know certainly I find the quality of the products I get from my local businesses, local small businesses like bakers, butchers, etc., is so much better than what I get from the supermarket, and it's just as competitively priced. And you get a hello and you get nice customer service and stuff. I walked into the butcher the other day. I would like, I need some beef. I need a joint of beef for a beef Wellington. The butcher was able to take me through my options. That I would never get that if I went into the supermarket. So I think there's a lot of extra customer service you can get from small businesses. So I think the underlying message today has got to be to continue supporting those small businesses. Not just in the first weeks of them reopening, but continuing to develop new habits of going to small businesses and popping in and out multiple stores to get everything that we look and need, rather than the convenience of a supermarket. So let me have a look at these questions that are coming in and we will get started. Our first question has come from Nyla on Instagram. Is there any benefits to being VAT registered if my business does not earn more than £80,000? That is a very complex question, Nyla. It really depends on what your business does. So, for example, a graphics design business has very, very few purchases. Most of their subscriptions are in America, so they don't pay VAT on it. So it's not worth them going VAT registered necessarily until they do cross over the threshold. However, some businesses will only do business with other businesses if they're VAT registered. So it's really weighing up all the different implications. So if you're a small little shop, then probably not. If you're trying to do business with other businesses, are those businesses only going to do business with people that are VAT registered? For some reason, it's quite an old-fashioned view, but bigger businesses tend to only trust businesses that are VAT registered because they're seen as more reliable, they're seen as longer, a bit bigger and longer running businesses. Even though I could go out, set a business up tomorrow and register it for VAT and never have traded before, for some reason it's a bit of a criteria for bigger businesses that they only talk to smaller businesses if they're VAT registered. So it's really difficult. I know I took our accounting firm's VAT registered fairly early on because we had a lot of software costs that were VAT registered. We also dealt with clients that were VAT registered, so they didn't have to, they got their money back from the VAT man for the VAT they paid us, and we got our money back for our software. So it worked out beneficial for everyone. But without having more information about what your business does, who you trade with, where you buy your resources and materials from, it's really hard to say. So my ultimate advice would be for you to go and talk to an accountant or bookkeeper and get their input, because they'll be able to have a look at all the detail, whereas I can just go off this one question you've sent us. Our next question is from Lindsay on Facebook Messenger. Hi Johann, I've just started a side business and was hoping you can tell me some common business expenses I can deduct. I'm working from home for the foreseeable future. Right, that is a long list. So again, it depends what your business is doing, but let's have a look at working from home. There's two methods of deducting for expenses you can claim from working from home. One is you can claim a percentage of each bill that you're using. So if you're using your Wi-Fi, if you're using water and you pay for water, electricity, gas, oil, phones, etc. So you can claim some of those expenses depending whether you rent or whether you have a mortgage, depends on what you can claim there. But basically, what you do is to work out the percentage you can claim. You add up all the livable rooms, you divide that, and then, so hang on. Say you've got £1,000 worth of bills, you divide it by the amount of livable rooms. So say we've got 5 to make things simple, so we've got £200 left. You then divide that by the percentage of time you spend in that room trying to calculate working. So you've got £200 worth of expenses out of your 1,000 that you're allowed to use. You then take, say, 90% of the time spent in that room because it's your office is work, so you can claim £180. But again, it's really something you need to sit down with an accountant or a bookkeeper, and they'll take you through exactly what you can and can't claim for your type of business. Because you can't claim some expenses for some businesses because there's a difference between sole trader and limited. There's difference between what you are not doing. If you're baking in your house, then there's other things you can claim that you can't as a graphics designer, for example. So again, that's a really broad question. And the other option is just to claim a fixed amount per month. And both of these options are detailed on HMRC's website if you want to have a look at that. Or just go and have a chat with an accountant or bookkeeper and they'll be able to take you through it properly. We did have a handout at one point explaining all this. I'll see if I can find the handout that we had and try and post it into the QuickBooks SMB community group. but I'm not sure where it is at the moment. I'll have to dig that out for you. But again, it's quite difficult until I know all your circumstances to give you a good answer there, Lindsay. Our next question is from Nala on Instagram. Do you have any advice on maintaining a budget? The income for my business varies, and so does the expenses. I find it difficult to maintain a budget. So it can be really difficult to maintain a budget when you've got fluctuating sales, fluctuating expenses, etc. Overall, it might be that you're looking too detailed into this. So if you're breaking it down to too smaller level, you might not need that detail at the moment. But when I'm looking at budgets, what I tend to do is I accept there's some things I just can't control. So for example, my telephone bill, I know what our telephone bill is going to be every month because it's a fixed price, it's all inclusive minutes, text, data, etc. So I can budget for that really easily, and I know within a few pence that's going to be accurate. Travel expenses, I don't know. So I used to spend a few £100s a month traveling, then lockdown happened. I've not spent that money. But then when I do travel again, some months I'm going to have higher travel, other months I'm going to have lower travel. So what I tend to do is I average it out. I look at what I spent in the last 12 months, and then I average that out and allocate that as my budget for the months ahead. But some months you're going to be over, some months you're going to be under. What's really important is actually to just understand why you're under or over. So if you've set yourself a budget, that's great. But if you go over or you don't spend all that budget, just work out why not. As long as you know why not, maybe make a note so you remember when you look back in a year's time, why did I spend so much last March? That's the important part, is the analysing and understanding of it. It's not as important necessarily to think, oh, I've overspent by £50 in this budget line. It's more, why have I overspent? Is there a saving I could be making here? Is there a subscription I'm paying for that I don't need anymore? And that's the really important approach to budgeting, is more come up with some averages potentially, or fixed prices if you know what they're going to be. But it's the analytical side of things. It's analysing what you spent your money on so you know why you've underspent or overspent. It might be that, you've underspent on your sales, cost of sales, for example. Well, that might be because your sales are down, or it might be because the supplier had a deal on that you weren't expecting. So it's just analysing that and understanding it rather than trying to hit those targets every single time, I think. Our next question is from Anna on Twitter DM. Luckily, my business took off during the pandemic as many people started to shop locally, and it's been a big push on supporting small businesses. As we open up again and people will be moving around more, I'm afraid it might harm our business. I don't have a strategy yet. Do you have any advice? So, as I said earlier, I think we all need to take a certain responsibility for supporting our small businesses, but small businesses need to take responsibility for telling us they're there. The amount of times I've seen businesses suddenly disappear from the high street, and someone will say to me, oh, did you see so-and-so's closed down? So-and-so, never heard of it. Or you speak to a business owner who says, oh, that business failed for me. Why did it fail? Well, no one turned up. Well, did you ever tell anyone you were there? Oh, no, I just thought people would turn up. It was on the high street. Never assume customers are going to turn up. If you want a strategy, I would say do a really big push on social media. Remind people that you're there. Whether that's Facebook posts, Twitter posts, Instagram posts. I mean, the amount of Instagram businesses that are out there doing coffee and cake and stuff, I know they're there because they're posting on my Instagram wall every single day. So don't become complacent. Just because you've been busy now, people will forget, people will move. We've all got short-term memories. all it takes is me having a slightly nicer coffee down the road from my usual spot for me to move and buy my coffee from there in future. So you just have to keep reminding us, make sure you're at the front of our mind every time, whether that's a bright, colourful shop front, whether that's online advertising, whether that's just posting on social media and getting people to share it. It's really important that you take that, you keep reminding people where they are, that you're there and that you help them during the crisis and you want to continue working with them. Our next question is from Stacey on Facebook Messenger. Hi, I'm setting up my limited company to work as a copywriter consultant with different small businesses. How should I go about insurance? Is it necessary, and what do you advise your clients? Stacey, it's always necessary to have some form of insurance. It's really important to have. You never know when you will or won't use it. So as a copywriter, I think your main insurance thing that you'll be looking for is your public indemnity insurance. That's PI insurance. If you Google it, there'll be loads of suppliers out there. Personally, we always advise our clients to talk to a broker who will always get the better deal, but also the broker understands your business. They'll understand what you do and don't need covering for, so you're just paying for what you need. If you go onto a insurance provider on the website and just pay for something you don't know, that you definitely got all the cover you need, and you might be paying for policies and parts of the cover you don't need. So definitely have a chat with an insurance broker about that, to make sure you get all the right insurances you need to get you started. Humphrey from Twitter DM. Hello, what's the difference between a profit and cash flow? Right. Easiest way to explain this. Profit's really important. It's the number at the bottom of your accounts. It tells you how profitable you've been for the year. But actually, you can have millions of pounds of profit and no cash flow because you've got all that money still owed to you. You've got loans to go out. So cash flow is the really important one. And cash flow is your bank balance, basically. Cash flow is all your bank balances, all your cash added up. That's how much is money you can spend today. You know, that's how much money you've got to clear your bills. It's how much money you've got to pay off your loans with. So profit is important. We need to be profitable to get a positive cash flow in the long term. But ultimately, we tell all of our clients, focus on your cash flow. And the cash flow is your money that's able to be spent today in your bank. So I hope that helps. We have a question on Facebook Messenger from Hazeb. Sorry. If I dissolve my company, will I be able to register a new company the same year? Hazeb, you should be able to, providing that you are able to, that you've not dissolved it with debts, etc. It depends on the reason for dissolving the company. But normally, if you're going to start a new company with a new focus and a new service that's in a different industry, that should be fine. But it's always worth having a chat with your accountant or getting an accountant to have a chat with, just so that you can see the bigger picture. I've got in front of me, I've just got one sentence telling me you've dissolved a company. I need to know: is there bills outstanding? Is there other debts and loans being still to be paid? Why have you dissolved the company? There's a lot of questions we need to ask to be able to tell you whether you will be able to register a new company straight away, and if it's in the same industry and stuff. So definitely worth a chat with an accountant to go through that. Question on Instagram DM from Madi. I'm planning to move to QuickBooks Online. Do you have any advice on how can we make a smooth transaction? Right. So you're moving to QuickBooks Online. Fantastic. Great choice. Most of our clients are on QuickBooks Online. We love it. First few steps to make sure you've got a smooth transition. I suggest finding a QuickBooks advisor, a QuickBooks Pro advisor. You can find them on the QuickBooks website by using the tool Find an Accountant. have a chat with them about buying your QuickBooks license through them, because they might be able to get you a better deal than going direct in the long term. QuickBooks Pro advisors also have access to a 90-minute onboarding session free of charge from QuickBooks. So all of our clients that come to us, we give them their license at a discounted rate compared to going direct to QuickBooks. Then we give them a 90-minute onboarding session that QuickBooks themselves run for us. That helps you get connected with your bank account, learn about the navigation around QuickBooks, set up your templates for your invoices and stuff. And then by going through an accountant or a bookkeeper, you know you've got that person at the end of the phone for any advice if you get stuck. On top of that, there are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube videos on how to use QuickBooks. Aaron, who is on this session very regularly, has a QuickBooks Ask the Expert, is the QuickBooks chap on Facebook, on YouTube. He has got some fantastic videos. And then there's absolutely tons of videos and how-to materials and stuff on the QuickBooks website as well. So there's loads and loads of material out there, but I strongly advise going through a QuickBooks Advisor, which you'll find on the QuickBooks Advisor listing, which will be rated based on reviews, their certification with QuickBooks, and location to you. So I hope that helps. Right, our last question for today from Olivia on Twitter DM. Hi, Johann. Do you know if I can liquidate a company if I've taken a bounce back loan? That's a really complicated question, Olivia. There's lots of different important things to consider there. So you need to have a chat with your accountant about that. I wouldn't want to give you any advice on that kind of a situation on this without knowing all the detail behind it, because it could go wrong quite badly. So definitely have a chat with your bookkeeper or your accountant or an insolvency practitioner about that, and I'm sure they'll be able to help. So our poll was, have you ever sacrificed anything for your employees? 60% said yes, and 40% said no. I think this is a question that's very open to different opinions. You covering a Saturday shift while someone has a day off, is that a sacrifice? Some people will say yes, some people will say no. So it's really open to interpretation, this one. But I think as employers, it's really important that we always try and look after our employees as best we can. And sometimes that will mean sacrifices on our behalf. So tomorrow, thank you for tuning in. If you want to get in contact with me, you can send me a message on LinkedIn. I'm under Johann Goree. I think I'm the only one on LinkedIn under Johann Goree. But always happy to have a message from anyone who's got questions or anything afterwards. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Coming up on Ask the Expert on Monday is Glenn Collins, Head of Technical Advice Services at ACCA UK, that are offering the Chartered Certified Accountant qualification. Tune in to learn about how small businesses can access financial advice from ACCA. Don't forget to join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB group on Facebook and also register for QuickBooks Connect. You can find the link in the comments below. So my name's Johann Goree. Thank you for tuning in and asking all these great questions. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend while the sun is out. And we will all see you next week. Thank you very much.